This is Ethan Morton from Purdue men's basketball, and you're watching Boilers in the Stands.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Boilers in the Stands. I'm your host, Kraig Bowers Jr. Alongside me, as always, is my guy, Kraig Bowers of Boiler Diehards. And beneath us is Joe Jackson and Aidan Kunst, once again returning for our post-game shows from their Feed the Post podcast. Make sure you're checking them out. They just dropped a new episode with a former player from Ohio State basketball, so they're doing their good work over there. But we're here to talk another Boilers win on the road, another impressive win on the road. This team, to me, it's every game I'm trying to think of a word, and poise, execution. I mean, they just are just so good at the little things. And, early on, it felt like, hey, Michigan is a tough matchup for Purdue with Hunter Dickinson, and having Zach Edie have to chase him around. And they always seem to have a counter punch for whatever any team this year is throwing at them. They seem to be ready for it. That's right, Icy Mike. They moved to 20-1 on the season, undefeated on the road for the whole season, including the Big Ten in Big Ten play. Just another huge win for Purdue basketball as they look forward to Michigan State on Sunday. But tonight we're going to talk about this big win. Kraig, your instant reaction to this one?
I just think it's really interesting. This whole matchup got pitched as Zach Edie against Hunter Dickinson. And this is probably the most team win that I can think of on the year from Purdue. Every single player that entered the game today scored a point, all 9 guys. The guys that we think of as the others, like we know we're getting points from Fletcher Loyer. We know we're getting points from Braden Smith. We know we're getting points from Zach Edie. The other guys on that team shot 58% tonight. This to me, and everybody was the best version of themselves. Ethan Morton played killer D. Gillis was an energy guy. TKR killed it on the block. Like, everybody played their role to the best of their ability tonight, and this was the best team win I think we've seen all year.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. I mean, Jenkins, TKR, and Gillis are going to get all the press for what they did coming off the bench. But, and we get a lot of crap from this guy in our comments after every game on YouTube, sticking up for Brandon Newman like we have a vendetta for Newman here. We do not. I mean, I got to give Brandon Newman all the credit in the world. He had some good minutes in the first half, and then at the end of the game, seals the deal with hadn't shot a free throw all night, and then hits the 2 free throws to seal it. That's onions as Bill Raftery would say. And that's the second time this season Brandon Newman's had to step up at the end and hit some big free throws. And if you know anything about the history of Valparaiso High School, as we've said before, they have a lineage of great free throw shooters, not just Brandon and Robbie Hummel. Every single kid that comes from Valpo High School is a good free throw shooter, and he put that on display at the end. So a lot of credit to Brandon Newman and the entire bench, like you said, Kraig. Joe, your instant reaction to this game?
Yeah, just a great team win all around. We've said it for five. It feels like 5-6 games at this point that the bench hasn't been there, and they were there today. And then you get that with Edie. He got going quickly. And then Michigan had to adjust their defensive strategy around that in the second half. Smith was super aggressive. Loyer hit some tough shots. If it wasn't for the first 10 minutes where Purdue's defense wasn't good, this is probably a 12, 13, 14-point game. But a road win at Michigan, no matter what the year is, no matter what the teams are, that's a good win. This is a little bit of a down year for Michigan, but it's still a game that they easily could have won. This is a game that, I think we expect Purdue to kind of win at this point in the season. But, before the season, like if we said that Purdue is undefeated so far on the road, like we would be, probably pretty surprised. Obviously, we'd be surprised that they're 21 in general, but just a good job on the road, getting another win that keeps them 2 games above in the loss column in the Big Ten conference standings, and that's huge going forward.
Yeah, 100%. It to me too, and sorry, I'm having a little trouble here pulling this down, but there was just some interesting things that I want to go over as far as once we get Aidan's thoughts as far as strategy that Michigan threw out there in the second half that I found interesting. But the other wrinkle that I wanted to bring up too is the other reason it's a huge win is before tonight's game started, there were only 3 teams behind Purdue with 3 losses in the column as far as Big Ten standings are concerned. Michigan was one of them. They now have 4 losses, and it's adding up for the middle of the pack with the Big Ten. So now Rutgers and Northwestern are the only 2 that remain with only 3 losses, and Purdue has 1 loss. And I can't help but look at that stuff. And Purdue plays Northwestern on Super Bowl Sunday here coming up, so they don't play Rutgers for the rest of the year. But it's just interesting to see how they continue to distance themselves from the pack. Aidan, your instant reaction for tonight's game?
Yeah, a lot of what these guys have already said, but really followed the road win formula. Took an early punch from Michigan. They came out with a lot of energy. Purdue being the number 1 team, we all know they're going to get everybody's best shot. They got it tonight from Michigan. I thought at least that Michigan team without Jet Howard, I thought played a really good game, especially offensively. They settled down, got into the flow, and different guys stepped up. Different guys did their job, as one of our commenters just said. Like some guys, their job isn't to score. That's Mason Gillis, who only had 3 points but impacted the game in a lot of different ways. Some guys, their job is specifically to score. Kaufman, Wren, and Jenkins, who combined for 16 points. So I think everybody really, really did, as these guys have said, did their job, filled their role. And it led to one of Purdue's most efficient offensive games. 1.2 PPP on the road at the Chrysler Center is an unbelievably efficient effort from Purdue. They just made enough plays to win, man. Like it wasn't always pretty, but they were efficient. They were smart for the most part. But a weird game, some funny stats to look into a little bit that we'll go over here. But yeah, good road win. They're never going to be great. Painter always says you got to be 10 points better to win by 1 on the road. And I thought Purdue was clearly the better team tonight, and that's why they ended up winning.
Yeah, I completely agree. Because that's the thing. Like I said, to start the game, and I can't wait to hear your analysis on this stuff because you're a lot better at calling out what you're seeing as far as, the strategy of coaching is concerned with you guys. But just the counter moves that Matt Painter, because I had said it to start the game. I was sitting there with my wife, and I'm like, Hunter Dickinson gets off to a hot start, and I'm like, we have trouble with this guy every time. And it's the same look, pick and roll, pick and pop, where we can't cover this dude. And he hits a 3, Edie's giving him space one-on-one. He knocks down the 3 to start. And I'm just like, it's going to be a long day again, just like it was last year against Michigan. And when they routed Purdue, and that didn't end up happening. They started to double, and then that somebody would come across on, when they double Hunter Dickinson, they try to get the pass out, somebody picks it off. The one time they do a pick and pop, Hunter's wide open on the 3, Fletcher Loyer comes over and jumps the route and picks it off. And I'm like, there's the counter. Yeah, I know Matt Painter's not stupid. He knows what he's doing, but I just felt like we hadn't really seen it yet. And that's where I said, like, at the start, I thought the word of the day was poise, but by the end of the game, it was about execution. How they just continually execute. The one time they got out of themselves was at the end of the first half when David Jenkins tries to throw a home run Hail Mary and it gets away from them. But aside from that moment, they're always under control. They always know when to slow it down or speed it up. Like at one point at the end of the game, Braden Smith is driving to the rim and doing his little snake thing. And I'm like, slow it down. And he blows by for an easy layup. I'm like, never mind. Like these guys know.
No. Yes.
Yes. And these guys just have a feel for the moment. And very rarely do they get outside of themselves. So I'm just really impressed by that stuff. While everybody's in here and we have a good number of people in the chat, I do want to remind everybody, as we always do, we appreciate you following us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. But for the 60 plus people in the YouTube chat, we have over 100 watching across all 3 platforms. But if you're in the YouTube chat, please hit the like button. We'd love for you to subscribe as well. We're going to be doing a lot of Purdue stuff. This is going to be a really fun season to cover. But please, if you're in here having fun with us and interacting in the chat, and we appreciate your participation in this, please hit that like button for us, because it's going to help grow this thing and send that algorithm out to the people that aren't aware of what we're doing yet. And we're going to keep giving you this coverage as the season rolls along. So I just wanted to get that out there while it's going on. But we'll move on to the early portion segment that we always do, and that is the stats of the game. And we'll find out what stands out to you. And we always do the team stats first, and then as we go into individual player discussion, we'll talk about those later on. But, for team stats, Purdue shoots a red hot 54% from the field on 27 of 50 shooting. Michigan, 44% from the field on 26 of 59 shooting. From the three-point line, Purdue shoots 42% from 3, 5 of 12. Michigan, 36 from 3, 9 of 25. They get 25 threes up on the game. From the free throw line, 80% from the line, 16 of 20 for Purdue, 64% from the free throw line, only 9 of 14 from Michigan. Really fell off in the second half for them getting to the free throw line. Turnovers, 12 turnovers for Purdue, only 6 for Michigan. 17 points off turnovers for Michigan, only 9 for Purdue. Total rebounds, 34 for Purdue, 26 for Michigan. It was 28 on the defensive glass for Purdue, only 6 offensive rebounds and 19 defensive rebounds, and only 7 off offensive rebounds for Michigan. Bench points, thing that we're going to talk a lot about tonight. 23 bench points for Purdue, 9 for Michigan. We've had games where Purdue's only had 4 bench points, so 23, the big number for the night. Points in the paint, 40. No surprise there, as always, with the National Player of the Year frontrunner Zach Edie, 30 for Michigan. Fast break points, not much doing there. 6 for Purdue, only 2 for Michigan, keeping them into a half-court game. 3 blocks apiece for each team. 3 steals for Purdue, 5 for Michigan. 7 assists for Purdue, 9 for Michigan. And, it says lead changes 10. Purdue led for 29 minutes and 40 seconds. Michigan only led for 8 minutes and 30 seconds of this game. So, it was a dominant performance after the hot start from Michigan, and once they settled in, as we've seen so many times, and the way Purdue plays in the second half in all these games, but specifically on the road, has certainly been impressive. Joe, you're such a numbers guy. So we're going to start with you. What stands out to you as far as the numbers are concerned?
It's good shooting splits just right off the bat, 54% overall, 41% from 3, 80% from the free throw line. You take that at pretty much every game. Looking 2 fast break points for Michigan, and I think they wanted to try and push at times too. Limiting them to 2 fast break points was big. Morton had the one where, he stopped the fast break 3-on-1 by himself. Just, maybe got lucky too that they missed a layup, whatever. We're going with he stopped it by himself completely. But those are the first 2 that really stand out. But only 7 assists, which is a little unusual for Purdue. Usually they're a pretty high assist percentage, but part of it is Michigan really wanted to slow Edie down and make him work, and Edie showed really, really good patience. TKR 4 for 4 is one that stands out, and just in general, aside from Edie had 4 turnovers, but then the rest only combined for 8, which is solid for a team that's struggled a bit. And then Mason Gillis, just I guess his stat line isn't crazy impressive, but the 4 rebounds and on the defensive end, he was just big. I think the 4 rebounds kind of exemplifies that, just the energy he brought for that second unit, started the second half even. Just solid all around. There's nothing too bad. Maybe the turnovers you want down a little more. Everybody scoring obviously is big, but just overall, I think it was just kind of solid all around.
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, some of the things that Gillis didn't show up on the stat sheet. Go ahead, Kraig.
It's always the same 2 things. I come back to these 2 things after every game. How far positive we are in rebounds, how far positive we are in free throws. We're +6 in rebounds, we're +7 in made free throws. Like, you can look at any other stat with this team. If we're +7, 8 in rebounds, and if we're +7 or 8 in free throws, we're winning the game. And usually by 5, 6, 7 points at least. That to me, that's the first 2 stats I check with this team every time, because we should dominate the boards and we should get to the free throw line more than the other team. And when we do, even if we shoot 25 to 30% from 3, we generally can still figure out a way to pull out the game.
Yeah, completely agree. And somebody brought it up in the comments, and I wanted to spotlight this before I get your thoughts on the numbers. Aidan is, they said, here it is, still not giving up more than 70. They said, and Alex brings up a good point. This team still has not given up more than 70. And I was right there with you, Alex. He says we were on track to give up over 80 after the first 10 minutes. And I said the same thing to my wife. We're watching it, and I'm like, man, it is exactly what I said. I'm like, both teams are on track. This game's going to be in the 80s. This game needs to slow down a little bit. And then with 10 minutes to go in the second half, they were at 48 points. And at that time, they were at it was 35 to 37 or something like that. And Purdue just started to put the clamps down and really grind this game to a halt. And so I definitely am right there with you. Aidan, as far as some of the team numbers, anything stand out to you?
Yeah, the biggest thing to me, and my favorite stat by far, is 7 assists. And why do you say that? Because that's a super low number for Purdue. Because it means that dudes were making plays, man. Like, it means guys were making plays that we haven't seen this year. Whether it was Kaufman, Wren, putting them in a blender with his footwork, Jenkins hitting those threes, Braden taking it coast to coast, Loyer had a few where he drove and scored, Edie being patient, getting to 2 or 3 dribbles before getting to his hook. I just think guys made plays tonight, and this team is often labeled as like the ultimate, they get their points through sets and sharing the ball and what have you. And that's an awesome thing. And it's certainly true. But tonight on the road in the Chrysler Center, like, this team had made plays, man. This team made individual plays at a level that I don't know that we've seen them in terms of just getting to their spots, man. Like, how often have we seen that from everybody on this team? Braden driving, stop and pop off the glass, bucket. Loyer driving to the rim. We've seen that from him. Jenkins, with a couple clutch shots that he was, not hesitating on. So I think just having 7 assists speaks to, like, man, these guys went out and made individual plays. And that's something we haven't seen a whole lot from this team. It's been feed Edie, work off that, Braden Smith ball screens. And those are our 2 kind of core offensive philosophies. But yeah, I thought tonight, man, guys just stepped up and kind of played. Obviously, some of the guys kind of played to a level we haven't seen them yet this year, specifically TKR on that block.
Yeah, 100%. And we just pulled it up, but they said the paint crew is going to be nuts on Sunday. Kurt Schnippel says that. And it'll also be the first time the paint crew sees a number one team in the country, right? That'll be the first time, correct? Because
No,
when they played Maryland,
Yeah.
were they? Yeah,
No, yeah, no, Maryland.
were they
Maryland.
number one against Maryland?
No, the paint crew saw
No.
them.
Yeah, they're number one. No, they
weren't.
No, they weren't. Yeah, you're right.
So this will be the first time. I mean, we've had a lot of firsts with the number one thing, but it is fun to say.
Yeah,
This is because last year they lost before they could come back home, and this year when they were number one, the paint crew hadn't been back yet. So yes, this will be the first time the paint crew specifically gets to see the number one team in the country. And I did see somebody early in the show say they saw you in the intro, Joe. So you're a part of that paint crew.
I am.
Wearing your overalls, your boiler overalls. So that'll be a fun time for you guys. But let's talk about it. What am I doing?
No, I put this comment up and then I was like, no, the paint crew wasn't there for the Rutgers game, right?
Yeah, the paint crew was not there.
Yeah.
So we're just having fun with it. First times, all the firsts we have to mark and signify as a moment. But it's starting to become, like a norm for Purdue to be number one team in the country. But let's not take it for granted and celebrate all the little moments. Because the other big thing, and we've talked about it, trying not to look ahead, but if they can keep winning, they're going to be the number one team in the country for the first time going to Assembly Hall against IU. If they can get there.
Don't get too far.
You don't want to, but I mean, come on, let's have some fun here. I know people are afraid to talk about, you know what? But at the end of the day, the damn good team's going to be going to Bloomington here.
So we got Michigan State at home, and then who else do we have in between
Penn
that stretch?
State.
Penn State at home.
For rankings wise, it's just going to be the Michigan State game. If they win at Michigan State, then they'll stay one for that entire week.
Correct.
Right.
So
because I use next Saturday.
So let's get into the numbers. I mean, where do we want to start? This doesn't look right, Joe. I don't know if we have some up, but yes, it does look right. I'm sorry. I was just shocked because at the top it said first. I thought that was Edie's stat line. I'm like, what is going on here? I mean, we can always start with Zach Edie, and we probably should, considering he's going to win. If he keeps this up, he's going to win National Player of the Year. I know, the guy from Bloomington is getting hot here lately. TJD, but 19 points, 9 of 16 shooting, 9 rebounds, only he had 4 turnovers. I'm not going to say only because he had a few. 32 minutes of play. Zach's just and the thing that I think that stood out to me with Zach was the first couple possessions. He did the drop step and went to his right. He always wants to go to his left, and if you watch the way defenders play him, they really try to cut that off. And they, you saw that with Hunter Dickinson. So he's like, okay, you're going to just let me go right. Boop. I'm going to drop step, turn around and easy lay-ins. And I think you can see that Zach's really working on implementing that and using it consistently during the game. And then just overall how patient he is when he gets the ball in his hands and fatigue. He doesn't seem to fatigue as much physicality as there is, the way he goes up with it. He did look tired, by the end of the game, but when he goes up, it's consistent. It's the same motion every time. So, Kraig, what stood out to you? Because I know you're giving me a funny look, so I don't know if I said anything stupid there, but let's talk about Zach Edie a little bit before we get into some of the other guys.
No, I was actually reading the comments and giving a funny look, trying to figure out.
Okay, I don't know. Sometimes I can be silly.
No, I have no idea what POTFH means. Like, I'm 45, dude. I'm not hip with all the little abbreviations and whatnot. So
I don't know what that
positive.
means. If it makes
we don't know what that means either. Yeah.
Somebody in the comments is saying that? Okay.
No. Zach was Zach, right? Zach was dominant in the first half. And like I said, when it started out, I was like, oh, this is just going to be, we're going to feed Zach all night. And that's going to be the game. And then that didn't turn out how the game ended up at all. But he was dominant in the stretch that he needed to be dominant. He got his points when he could. He did a decent job passing out of the double. Like you said, 4 turnovers. There were a couple that were a little shaky. He put the ball on the floor a little bit too much when he maybe should have just turned and went ahead and decided to kick it out. I thought at the end of the first half, he looked a little gassed. And
yeah,
I I'm gonna flip this. Like, I know you wanted me to go one direction here with this, but I'm gonna flip this a completely different direction, Greg. I thought Painter's substitutions today were insane. Like, if you would go back and look at who got minutes, when they got minutes, who they got minutes with, that hasn't happened since like way early in the preseason. He had some lineups out there that we don't commonly play with, and he rode the hot hand. Jenkins a couple times was playing really good, rode his hot hand. He put TKR out there with Zach when they went with two bigs. Doesn't normally do that. There was another one in there that I was like, man, I don't remember seeing that lineup anytime in the last couple months. Like, Painter did some different things and just rode some guys that were putting up points and playing well in that moment tonight.
Yeah, and I want to ask you this, Aidan, when it comes to Zach Edey. You know, you guys were talking a little bit about it on Twitter, and I know you guys want to bring it up on the show as far as you and the conversation Joe had pregame as far as how Michigan was going to show some looks rotation-wise. They played both their bigs to end the game. And my observation from it, and I want to ask you this, Aidan, is it felt like it was helping Purdue because now Zach doesn't have to play Hunter Dickinson. They can put Caleb First on Dickinson, and now some of that pick and pop stuff that hurts us at times seemed now you can have Zach camp out against Reed, who is much more limited as an offensive player. What was your impression of that look that Juwan? Was that simply because of, you know, having guys out from injury for Michigan and guys in foul trouble, or like, how did you think that
Yeah. And to your point earlier, it was a chess match, man. Like, to Craig's point, like, Painter showed a lot of stuff that he, I think, has been hesitant to at times. But yeah, I think they do that a decent amount. I think Joe watches more Michigan than I do, but I've seen him play and I've seen them do that before. You know, I think we both expected it, Joe and I, given that they're, you know, had Jet Howard out, started to pick up fouls. I think they might have gone to it more often, but, you know, Reed picked up those 3 fouls like right away. And so I don't know that he wanted to keep playing him. And yeah, I mean, it's obviously, I think it helps Purdue because I think, you know, you look at, kind of let Edie just roam, you know, kind of play free safety. And that's a hell of a free safety at 7'4" there, you know, coming over from the weak side, putting him on a guy who can't shoot. You know, we saw that against Gonzaga with Anton Watson. That's obviously the kind of famous example from this year because it was such a big game of like, okay, First and Gillis can handle Timmy or Dickinson. And even it was ballsier to do it against Dickinson because he's bigger than Timmy, a worse matchup theoretically for those guys. But then when Edie comes with the double team, it's like, man, they're still double teaming on the catch. And now Dickinson's got to make a quicker decision against more length. So I get it, you know, and Dickinson gave Edie a lot of trouble in that mid post facing up. Edie didn't really know how to guard him. It didn't feel like it. He didn't have a great feel the whole night for how to guard him. You know, he's found this comfort zone of like, okay, I'm not going to foul all the time. Like, you can have a layup if you really go at me, you know, but if you go by me and now I'm coming from behind, I'm pinning your crap off the glass. And, you know, but Dickinson's so quick, man. And he's got those, the little hooks that he can throw in there, the little scoop shots. Boy, he's crafty around the rim. And so when he got Edie in the mid post, it became clear to me right away that, oh boy, this is not a good matchup. Like, we're in a bit of trouble here. When he did that one where he got Edie to foul him and flipped it up on the other side of the rim early on, that was the moment where I went, okay, we're going to have to make some adjustments here. And the few adjustments they did was yes, that, but then they started immediately doubling on the catch early on. And that's when Dickinson started to get a little, you know, in his head, he started to be, okay, do I throw it? Do I not? He's not as good as Edie because he's not as big. You know, Edie just ball fake, and then he'll get rid of it. Whereas Dickinson was kind of just firing it, and Fletch got him a few times, which is crazy that a freshman can play too like Fletch did, meaning being the low man, the MIG, a lot of coaches call it most important guy because you're lowest on defense. And Fletch was that quite a bit. And he ended up picking it off from Dickinson a few times, which was huge. But yeah, man, I thought Painter did an awesome job. I really did. We've been singing his praises all year. Like, obviously they're 20-1, but just the nuances of the game of, okay, this isn't going to work, our initial strategy. So now we're going to adjust. We're going to double on the catch. Now you're going to go 2 bigs. Okay, fine. We'll flip it and we'll double with Edie. Dickinson still scored on one of those doubles with Edie, but he also turned it over He only turned it over twice, but it didn't feel he was super comfortable. A lot of times he'd pass it right back out.
Yep.
So I think they did an effective job. And then the other thing they did, I'm kind of rambling here, but the other thing they did was on those empty side pick and rolls where Dickinson would pop, and now there's no tag man. They tried to send first off the 4-man all the way over. And that one they got burned on once or twice because Dickinson just pulled the trigger and hit the one that they thought might have been a 2 right in first mouth. He was just like this late getting over. And so they basically just said, okay, we're going to make it first or Gillis, who's so much quicker, going to make it their responsibility to go cover Dickinson, and Edie will just kind of drop it off. But yeah, it was a fascinating chess match between those two guys. And that was probably my favorite part of the game, just watching Painter and Jawan. And I know everyone has mixed opinions about Jawan, but I do think he's a pretty good X's and O's coach. And those two went at it for sure.
Yeah, it was certainly, Painter's just in his bag this year, as I've said a few times. Oh, yeah. Hunter Dickinson's certainly crafty. He's also a jerk. I was going to say something else, but I'll keep it PG, I guess, talking about college kids. But man, some of his showing off after he hit shots. And it was like, then he's doing it at the end of the game and they're down 9. I'm like, God, this guy, at least he's consistent. We're over, we hit over 100 people watching in the YouTube chat, over 140 people watching live here. Some of our bigger numbers for these shows. So once again, please hit that like button for us. I'll try to remind a few times, but I don't want to get us off track too much, but we appreciate everyone's support and everybody tuning in. These games are only going to get better as they go. So let's get into, I think, everybody's talking about the bench, right? Like you're seeing, talk about First, talk about Gillis, talk about Brandon Newman, having a solid run tonight. So I think we should just go to the bench and then we'll work our way back to, Loyer and Braden Smith, who we can talk about all night. We've talked so many times about those guys. But it was the night for the bench. So let's start with Trey Kaufman-Renn because, man, I just feel like he really won the night as far as the guys off the whole bench mob did a great job. But, man, Trey Kaufman-Renn, much needed performance, 8 points, 4 of 4 shooting. In the second half at one point, looked like Hunter was going to lock him up, and he got Hunter to go up in the air. And, it's just like some of those crafty plays like that, using his footwork to his advantage. He may not have the power to power you down, but he's got the footwork to get to the rim. So he was 4 of 4 shooting, only 1 rebound, but 9 minutes of play, 8 points on 4 of 4 shooting, only 1 turnover. We've been talking a lot about TKR and him needing to get going. Kraig, what did you think of TKR's performance tonight? I know you've talked about it a little bit, but maybe a bigger picture on what he did tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I was just amazed a little bit. Like, if you would have said any Big Ten team that we were going to play, that like this would be a game that he would step up and be a huge impact, I would have really doubted you that it would have been the Michigan game, because I would have assumed at some point he'd have been going head-to-head with Hunter, which he did, and scored on him. And I did not see this coming. They go 4 for 4. Some of those footwork moves, man, like there was a couple times he put guys in spin cycles, and I'm like, man, was that a travel? No, that wasn't a travel. When they showed the replay, like he kept his pivot foot. Just an incredible job for him stepping up. And he got beat on D a few times. Like, we know he's not the greatest post defender in the world, but he also he steps up and plays some guys in space really well. But he seems to not quite have that feel of being able to feel when a guy in the post is going to go a certain direction or not just quite yet. I'm sure Brantley's going to get him there. But man, he stepped up in a big, big way. I mean, you shoot 100% on a game. That's pretty damn good.
Joe?
I mean, yeah, you cannot physically do better than 100% from the field. A lot of what Kraig said, just, finally got it going. Probably felt good for him to see the first one drop. I forget specifically what it was, but just had to feel good for him to do that. And I think for the defensive side, like, he's definitely, he's going to have to get there eventually. I don't think he's a great rim protector. I think, like Kraig said, he does fine in space, as I think, at least from what I've seen, as long as he can keep them lateral. I think he has a hard time like rotating his hips quick enough to really get back. Like, the one time he just got absolutely blown by in drop coverage, and McDaniels is a really quick point guard. So that's not, completely fair, but I think he can't quite turn quick enough right now really to be able to get back kind of, and he's not big enough like Edie, where Edie can just, shuffle back and keep his arms up to keep force floaters and stuff like that. But no, on the offensive end, really great job. Battled with Dickinson. He only had, one turnover and probably had he probably ended up using like 6 or 7 possessions, something like that total. Or going at him 6 or 7 possessions, I mean, in the post. Just, really good. I agree with this. He's got a left shoulder move. So I think he's maybe saying like go to the left hand, kind of how Edie's developed that drop step, which real quick, like have teams always just played Edie like that? Even last year, like I know like they want to take away that left shoulder, like the right hook over the left shoulder, but man, it's been egregiously like we are going to force you to the drop step because we don't think you have it. And it's been like
certainly in the last few games, more so.
Point.
And like if you watch the game-winning shot against Michigan State, what I loved about that play was they really cut off him going left when he immediately gets the pass and he drops right, and it makes Michigan State's defender kind of adjust over, and then that's when Edie hits him with this little Akeem Olajuwon turnaround, roll back to his left, put it in. But he showed it initially like he was going drop step right. So I think he, to be as effective as he can possibly be and not be predictable about what he's about to do, showing that consistently is going to make things open up more and more for him, where they can't just completely sell out and block him off from his left side. We have one more comment from Zach from the Purdue. I'm waiting for the time where the later stage of his career, being Trey Kaufman-Renn, where he gets the 3-ball consistent. He's shown flashes this year, but I'm waiting for the 3-pointer consistency. And I agree. Like, to me, that's what's going to unlock TKR, because he can do it in the post. He's got great footwork. I think he's got to get stronger in his upper body. When he's trying to like back a dude down, and obviously we're spoiled watching Zach Edey manhandle dudes and make it look like children are guarding him. But at the same time, TKR is like the exact opposite of Zach in that way, where he's a smaller big who's trying to play the post-up game, and he can do it, but it's a battle for him to get the look he's trying to get. Whereas Zach, he's just got to turn around and hook shot it in. Yeah. He's living the dream. TKR's got to work to get those looks. And to me, a step back baseline jumper or the 3-ball, which he has the ability to do, is going to be something. And they're not asking TKR to shoot threes right now, so you're not going to see that much this year. They're an offensively efficient team, so they're not going to be like, TKR, get out on the 3-point line like you see with Hunter Dickinson. But I do agree with Purdue basketball fan Zach, the Purdue fan, saying that's, I think, his evolution going forward, but that's not going to be something you see on this year's team. He has a role to play.
Yeah, and I think one more thing with TKR, like he's a freshman. I know he's a redshirt freshman, but like he's a freshman that, like you said, he has to do it way different than Edie. Like we are spoiled in that sense, and like we're also spoiled with that Smith and Loyer just came in day one and we're like, all right, we're running the show. I think obviously TKR there's improvements that are going to be needed. We see the flashes, we've seen it a few times, and I'm just trying to say he's definitely not, void of criticism by any means, but I think we also do forget that he's a freshman, redshirt freshman. Like he's still trying to figure out as he goes in very limited minutes in a position backing up, the most dominant center in the country. So it's a tough spot.
He's young in game experience. He's really young in game experience. And I think like we talked about, like, who cares that he only had one rebound, a couple, like his job is to score when he gets in there. So put the ball in the bucket, give the second unit an offensive identity of like, okay, what do we do when things break down? We give the ball to Trey. We give the ball to Trey on that block, and he'll develop over time. But yeah, I'm impressed, man. Like when I watched him at Silver Creek, where I think he won 2 state titles and probably would have won a third with the pandemic. Silver Creek in Southern Indiana, where he played, and like he never had to do any of this stuff. So really, I think the footwork that he has now, he could just bully dudes and He shot a lot of threes in high school. He could drive it. He was more of a wing, honestly. Wing disguised as a big. And so it's been a transformation to get him where he was. When he came to Purdue, I think most people thought he would maybe transition to playing the 3. And now he's a true 5. And yes, he can play some 4, but you love having him at the 5 offensively. The defense is okay, and it'll never be amazing. But he battled tonight, and for him to get get some good positive notches under the belt tonight in a big game at the Chrysler, getting a battle with Hunter Dickinson, I think it's big for his development. We said at times, I think this crew has said, like, he's going to win you a Big Ten game, and you could argue he did that tonight. We needed all 8 of those points for sure.
Yeah, and John Hostetler says junior year TKR was Gatorade Player of the Year for Indiana,
which is rare.
And they got some players coming too. Talking about high school. We'll get back to the guys that played tonight, but Jack Benter, the dude that broke the backboard, coming
Same area
into Purdue.
as TKR.
He dropped 48 and then dropped 51 in back-to-back games. We're not even talking about Miles Colvin or Catchings. This Jack Benter dude's dropping 50 burgers. So the future is bright with these guys. Let's keep talking about this bench mob here. Let's go to Brandon Newman, because like I said, I get some people that in our comments, I don't know, they're like messing with me. I like Brandon Newman, and I think everyone else here does too. We try to give a critical eye to what we're seeing. I'm trying to find the comment earlier where somebody talked about his numbers for the night, but if I can find it while I'm rambling here, I thought he had really good minutes in the first half. He had a couple moments, where he gave up that 3 to Buffkin and then it turned the ball over. But then at the end, to knock down those free throws at the end, this is another guy that I felt like really, like with TKR, really needed a strong performance tonight, because, it's getting to that point in the season where minutes start to get trimmed, and, the starters are going to play a little more because you're trying to, inch out these wins, and the bench has just had their struggles at times. But tonight, Brandon Newman, I thought really bounced back in a big way. He had 6 rebounds. He's always good on the glass. 14 minutes of play, only the 1 turnover, as I mentioned. 4 points, but none bigger than the final 2 free throws of the game, where Michigan had kind of created some chaos and made it a game at the end. Joe, what were your observations of Brandon Newman tonight?
Yeah, I thought he was solid. Definitely had some better Newman than usual. 6 rebounds again. Just, he's a really good rebounder for his size. I still worry every time he has to put the ball on the ground in an isolation of sorts manner. He had the one where he kind of went baseline, whatever, but no, when he had that strong curl cut to, rough somewhere early in his first stints. When he's moving and just kind of flowing with the offense, like he's a really good, he can be a really good scorer off the bench. And then, defensively, I think he's definitely leads that second unit for defense. He has the athletic tools to be able to at least slow down like the guys like Buffkin and stuff like that. Not quite as good as Morton, and I definitely want to hit on Morton soon. But solid game. There was none of those really like, oh, why'd you make that play? Like, we tend to at times get at least 1 or 2 of those from Newman, just like why, what was going on there. But none of that. And so when that happens, he plays in the system, he takes good shots, he plays good defense. And that's, Valpo free throw shooting, knocks down the 2 clutch ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was at a camp once with the coach that did it, but the free throw shooting, I mean, just random notes.
There's just something to be said for that. He's shown it twice this year where he hasn't taken a free throw all game and then has to hit the game-winning free throws at the end. Yeah. And not just knocks him down, but knocks him down with confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And wouldn't you guys kill to have those mechanics on your shot? I mean, my goodness, what a gorgeous jumper that guy has. I thought he gave really good minutes in the first half. Mm-hmm. Like when he was guarding Buffkin in the first half, he did a really nice job. And then obviously Buffkin got going and started to give Purdue a bit of trouble in the second half, more when he was being guarded by Morton. But yeah, I thought he gave a nice shift in the first half. It's funny, he was actually on the receiving end of the boneheaded play on that Hail Mary from Jenkins when I think we had an 11-point lead, had just gotten a stop. All the signs are pointing to slow it down and run a set, and nope. down. Newman just trips and falls, and that it's funny that he was on the receiving end of that. Usually it'd be him making that play, but good for him, man. He had a nice game overall.
Yeah, and I know you wanted to bring up Ethan Morton here soon, but I want to go through these bench mob guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Before we get to some of the starters, just kind of switch it up from how we normally do it. They had such a good night. David Jenkins Jr., I think right there neck and neck with Trey Kaufman-Renn for MVP that came off the bench, maybe the best of the night. It's hard to say between the two. David certainly has, a bid in that. 8 points, 2 of 3 shooting, 2 of 2 from 3, 2 of 2 from the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, only 1 turnover in 19 minutes of play, probably the most minutes he's had all season. Kraig, your thoughts on David Jenkins tonight? Another guy that needed a big performance and seems like he's starting to fill into this role of coming out as a guy that, as they said on the telecast, well-traveled from UNLV and Utah, and I can't remember the third school, but somebody that was approaching 2,000 points in his career. I mean, he's a high-volume shooter and can shoot the rock, but here he comes and plays limited minutes. Not an easy adjustment for that type of player, and it seems like he's starting to find his rhythm with that. What are your thoughts on how David Jenkins Jr. played tonight?
I thought he was incredible, and he probably got more run because Smith gets those 2 fouls, but I think also we've seen Painter put Smith back in with a couple of fouls, but Jenkins was playing so well, there was really no reason to do so. Hit a couple of threes tonight, right? I thought he was just really solid. I thought early on their length at the wing was bothering Jenkins a little bit, just trying to figure out how to work around it. Sometimes he kind of figured it out later and when to go ahead and burn him and go all the way to the rack. But I thought Jenkins really stabilized everything and let's make the simple pass. This is where it's going to go. Let's get it to Zach. Let's get it to our shooters, But then he hit shots when he needed to hit shots. And I thought he was physical on defense, just a body. And that guy, let's not forget, that guy's been a volume shooter everywhere he's been. And it's not necessarily that you have to put up a ton of shots, but when he gets the ball in his hands on a more consistent basis, he's going to be freer flowing and feel more comfortable stepping up and taking those shots. So, I'm perfectly comfortable if we get in a spot in the tournament where Smith has to go to the bench. I'd rather have him in, but I'm comfortable that if the more time Jenkins is on the floor and has the ball in his hands, he's going to get settled and comfortable and hit shots.
All right. Well, and do me a favor while we get some thoughts from Joe and Aidan. You know how to block people from the chat, and our boy Tanjiro is begging for it. So go ahead and throw him out of here because I ain't got time for the nonsense tonight. But we appreciate you tuning in. Maybe next time you can behave yourself. Joe, your thoughts on David Jenkins Jr.?
Yeah, no, really good game. I think Kraig hit on it a lot. He brings something defensively, like that Smith can't, just that, bigger guard, a little more physical, and just being able to knock down shots now. Obviously, I'm not saying Smith can't do that, obviously. But yeah, no, when Jenkins comes off the bench and he is able to be productive, it's huge because that's where, the biggest on-off splits for the year has been Smith. When Smith goes to the bench, Purdue's just been a much, much worse team. And then, over the past, last game, Jenkins goes 1 for 2 from 3. He hits 2 of 2 today. The first one he hit today was just, I think Michigan was in their, 2-3 or 3-2 zone, whatever, kind of like a hybrid. And then they switched to man about halfway through. They were trying to do that. And I'm almost positive. I think it's going to be pretty funny, honestly, watching back. You see the guy that's near Jenkins just dead sprint way away from Jenkins. Now Jenkins has 20 feet of space for his first 3. And, it's a lot of space to get your first one to go. And I think, like Kraig said, Jenkins needs to get in a rhythm. He had a wide open 3 to knock one down. And, that's big for being able to start. That gets him in rhythm. He knocks down another one. That was with under 5 seconds, a kick out from, I believe, Edie. I think somebody earlier in the comments said, I swear Jenkins is shooting 80% when the shot clock's under 5. And it really feels that way. He's a guy that can, just knock down really tough shots and just, help Purdue out in that way. Loyer has been able to do it some, but aside from that, there's no real like, hey, just go create a shot in 3 seconds for us because we need it. And that's what Jenkins provides. Really, really good game. It's good to see them get going. The whole bench in general, but Jenkins was probably the best player off the bench. I think he really sparked that the wide open three that I was talking about. He knocked down. It really sparked that 11-0 run from Purdue in the first half to kind of blow the game open a little bit, and then Purdue never looks back from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just been it was a big night from the bench. We're talking about Mason Gillis too. A lot of stuff won't show up on the stat sheet as far as some of the things he did tonight. Only 3 points, 1 of 4 shooting, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and 22 minutes of play. But first to the floor in a lot of ways. Aidan, I think the big thing when it comes to Mason Gillis is he started the second half. So to me, that was a big move by Matt Painter to have, first has been taking the 4 spot all year long. Now he pulls out, the rabbit out of his hat with Mason Gillis to start the second half. Your thoughts there?
Yeah, and even he had even at one point had him guarding Dickinson, which I thought was a testament to Gillis. Like he's versatile, man. Like I loved when he pulled the trigger on that 3 he got on a great pass from Smith, the one that he made, because the previous play he had missed one. Probably rushed one a little bit in that corner, the one he took. But yeah, he just does his job, man, and so many key rebounds in this one. Scrappy, tough, just all the cliches, but they do apply with Gillis. Like he just cares about winning, man. He doesn't care if he's starting, if he's coming off the bench, whatever the case may be. Like he's gonna do his best, and he even gets him into trouble sometimes. Like he overhelps because he just wants to be there and just being active. And you just love, you'd really rather have a guy who goes all out every play than have a guy where you kind of gotta get him to play hard every play, and then kind of ease him back in. It's easier to have a guy who's gonna play his butt off every play, and you got to bring him back in versus the other way around. So Gillis, I think, exemplifies that. Did that again tonight, and along with Morton, who I think they had pretty similar games. Hit the shots when they had them. Played tough defense. Morton obviously. Buffkin got going a little bit, not really his fault, just hit some tough shots. But those 2 guys, I think, really are obviously our glue guys.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, you just got to give Gillis a lot of credit because at one point he missed a 3 open, and then he takes the next one wide open and knocks it down.
Yeah, next play, man.
Play. Exactly. Short memory there. And not worrying about the struggles. Kraig, go ahead. You had a thought?
I was just going to say, and Buffkin's really good. Like
yeah.
he's my favorite player on that team. I actually thought he was a freshman. I was talking to Aunt Wright on Twitter about it. Like, I don't even remember him last year. I didn't watch Michigan a ton, but I don't really remember that kid last year. But every time I've watched Michigan this year, like, I think that kid just, like, he's got some great ISO game. He's got a nice shot. He does some little things really well. I think that kid's just really good. So, like, he's going to hit some shots, and he's super athletic, playing against some of our guards that maybe don't have the same size and athleticism. So that's going to happen.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm sorry. The Twitch chat had my attention. This guy, it was totally throwing me through a loop. I was like,
I didn't even know we were on Twitch, Braggs.
I know. Maybe I shouldn't even stream from there because, like, it's such a stupid app. But it's one of the destinations I have.
I don't even know what Twitch is, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, well, Twitch is for the weird guy that was in the chat. Luckily, nobody in YouTube or Facebook had to read all the stuff that we could see he was putting up. But let's move to the starting lineup. I mean, I think we covered everybody coming off the bench. I know First didn't have the greatest day as far as starters are concerned. Aidan said Aidan or Joe, somebody said they really want to talk about Ethan Morton. So let's do that. Only 5 points, 2 of 3 shooting, did knock down a 3 in the first half, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 fouls, only 1 turnover in 28 minutes of play. And I just thought at one point, the thing that exemplified this team, again, execution, at one point, they showed a different defense with Edie where they were trying to throw it down to him, and Hunter's face guarding, on the opposite side of Edie and not with his back to the basket, cutting off the inlet pass. And Braden Smith the whole team just adjusts from that. and he kicks it to Ethan in the corner. Ethan drives, easy layup off the backboard, and I just turned to Jenny. I was like, there's just nothing this team isn't ready for. Whatever you throw at them, they always seem to be ready for it. And Ethan Morton is just one of those players that helps that because they're just so smart. Ethan, Braden, Loyer, Edie, they're all first. They're just such smart players. And then, of course, maybe the best play of the day, a fast break coming down. It's 3-on-1, and Ethan's the one. And he guards two guys to stop, not only stop them from making the shot, but gets the rebound, and it goes back the other way, as Christopher Tice says here in the chat. That was probably the play of the game. Kraig, your thoughts on Ethan Morton tonight?
Well, I just go back to game reps, right? They're pushing him to get more aggressive, whether that's attacking the rim when he has the opportunity to do so, whether that's shooting the three, which he did last year in small sample sizes, but you can tell they're telling him shoot, get 2 feet in the paint if you have that opportunity, because it's going to open up other things. And we talk about game reps with guys who just haven't played a lot. Ethan's played a lot, but they're pushing him to do things that's a little bit out of his comfort zone. And we've seen him be more aggressive the last 3 games. And he still missed that wide open layup today on the fast break, but he hit a hard runner down the baseline. He knocked down that 3. The more aggressive he is, I'm all for him continuing to push it. And if he misses the random layup right now, fine. Because in March, I want him to be super comfortable doing that. And as always, he was really good defensively. Buffkin's a hard matchup. I think he was on him a few different times, or maybe he was on him the whole game. I don't remember for sure right off the top of my head, but he played great defensively. That 3-on-1, even though that was a really, I don't think I've ever seen 3 guys run a transition break that close together in my life, even at the YMCA. But they made it easier on him, but he still defended 3 guys on that play, and that just epitomizes him defensively.
Aidan, I believe you were the one that said, I really want to talk about Ethan tonight, so fire away, my friend.
No, I think it was Joe, but I'm happy
Joe,
to.
I don't, whichever, whoever is dying to talk about Ethan Morton.
No, go ahead, Joe. You're excited about it.
He was a great guest on the show. Let's give Ethan his flowers.
He's our guy.
Yeah, no, it's gonna pain me when Ethan Morton does not make the all defensive Big Ten team. Honestly, that's gonna, for all the awards and that's gonna be the one that's gonna hurt me the most, just because he deserves it. He is so good on that end. I'm gonna be completely honest. I don't quite remember when Buffkin got going. I believe Morton was on him for a lot of it. And if I remember right, and just kind of looking at my notes, Buffkin is a good player. And he was hitting some tough shots, and it's just all right, that's just going to happen. I mean, Bryce Sensabaugh had 21 on Ethan, and I thought Ethan played really well. But Buffkin does get going, and then Ethan for sure, last 6, 7, 8 minutes, just absolutely clamps him. That was, for Dickinson only had 6 points in the second half. He only took 3 shots. Their offense was Buffkin, and then Painter's just all right, Morton, go shut him down, and he does. Just navigates screens really well, knows how to use his length. He isn't the absolute quickest guy. But he just is able to counter it with his intelligence and just his length. Most guards aren't used to having a 6'7" lanky guy that can move pretty well on him. And just is able to disrupt. I think he doesn't always have the defensive stats per se and the steals and blocks that show up, but he's just I think he's another higher energy defensive guy. Gillis does his work down low, rebounding. Morton does his work on the perimeter, getting through screens, keeping guys in front. And, it doesn't always show up per se in the box score, but he's just been so good. And I'm going to keep, unless he plays bad, obviously, I'm just going to keep kind of hammering that, hey, he's needed so much on defense for this team. And then on offense, if you get something that's great. I'm in, with Kraig in the same boat as Kraig, Morton needs to keep shooting. Morton needs to keep being aggressive. Maybe the latter a little bit more too. He's such a good passer. Just get into the paints, get a paint touch and generate something from there. I think he obviously has not shot the ball well at all this year, and Purdue's still 20-1. You can afford for him to take his 2 to 3 shots probably per game. Just try to keep getting him in rhythm. Aidan's been the one from the jump really early in the season that's been hey, when Ethan is looking to actually shoot, that's when it's going to go in a lot. And then when he's hesitant, that's when it misses. And, I think that's just been pretty spot on. The first one he makes today, It was the first points for Purdue that wasn't from Edie. I believe it was a kick out or it was like a swing, and it was Ethan was going up with it for sure and knocks it down. So, I just think he was really, really good on the defensive end. And then you take what you can get from him on offense, and you hope that he doesn't cost you too much or even gives you some positives.
Absolutely. Aidan, any quick thoughts on
I agree.
Move on?
Yeah, I think like even the first shot of the game, mechanically that wasn't as good as many of his threes, honestly. He kind of brought it down from a little bit lower and almost, shot it from the left side of his body, which would usually be a hard no, in terms of like, what are you doing, man? But at the same time, like he shot it confidently and it goes, so I really do think someone brought it up earlier. It's a confidence thing. And I think it is for our guy, Ethan. Like you said, miss the layups now, make him in March. Hopefully he has cost Braden a couple sweet dimes, but hopefully he makes up for that in March. So we'll see.
Yeah.
The other thing to me defensively is Zach's up on that National Defensive Player of the Year short list, top 15 or whatever.
Yeah.
But we're helping Zach a lot of time in that post. Like we're doubling on whoever he's guarding that post a lot of times. Ethan's on an island all night, every night.
Oh yeah. Against the best guy.
Yeah.
Every time.
Absolutely. So, we just passed the hour mark of this show. We still have well over 100 people in the live chat on YouTube. So once again, please, if you're tuning in this long with us, you're enjoying what you're seeing, please hit that like button. We'd really appreciate it. Just helps grow what we're doing. Subscribe to the channel. We're going to keep pumping out content for you guys. Keep doing post-game shows, do shows during the week. We had a fun guest with Jared Harder, a former Purdue basketball manager, on earlier this week. He had some really unique perspectives and insights to the program. We've had Fletcher Loyer and Ethan Morton and Matt Painter to start the year as guests on this show. So we're bringing the heat for you Purdue fans, and we're going to continue to do that as we gear towards March. It's going to be a huge month of February, starting out with the Hoosiers on February 4th. Obviously, we got Michigan State and Penn State before that, but just huge games coming. 10 games to go, and then we get to the Big Ten tournament and March Madness, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing this stuff. So please hit that like button. And if you have already hit the like button, Kraig's going to send all of you a Christmas present next year. So we appreciate that. No, I can't.
It's going to be a small bag of wool from my sheep.
Yeah, you get one sheep. Now, okay, so we can go two ways with this. We can keep talking individual because we're grinding down to Fletcher or Braden to talk about, or Joe. I know I wasn't here for this because when you guys were holding down the fort on the previous post-game shows against Minnesota and Maryland, you're doing some of this on the drawing board stuff. So I don't know if you have that ready. If you do, I know I'm putting you on the spot here. If you do and you have a play in mind you want to talk about, great. If not, I'll let you think about it, and we can talk about Fletcher Loyer here first. And then we'll finish with Braden Smith. But Fletcher Loyer, once again, another huge night from him. 17 points, 4 of 10 shooting, 1 of 3 from 3, but 8 of 8 from the free throw line. Michigan fans even tried to bust out the Foster's Better chant, copying their Michigan State rival, student section over there. So that didn't work for Michigan State. So I didn't know why they thought it would work again tonight.
Yeah, keep doing that, please.
Yeah, I hope they chant that for 4 years. 2 rebounds, only 1 foul, and only 1 turnover in 35 minutes of play. But got to the free throw line a few times, where Michigan had things locked up. He's making tough shots off the dribble with a hand in his face. Really nice touch where, he's, firing it up and getting it up on the rim, and it rolls in. He just has this ability that you just don't see from many freshmen. Aidan, I'll start it with you, and we'll work our way around our thoughts on Fletcher Loyer's night tonight.
Yeah, quiet 17, right? Which
17 is his lucky number. How many times has he hit 17 on the season?
Yeah. Well, it's impressive. And I mean, one guy on Twitter at Boiled Sports, he was talking about Purdue just went on a quiet scoring run, and that was making me think, like, man, that's what this Purdue team needs, like quiet 10-0 runs, quiet 11-0 runs, because it means that we're dictating tempo, means that it's just one stop at a time. I thought Loyer kind of exemplified that tonight. Like second half, they did a much better job on Edie, and I thought Edie missed some that he probably would like to have back. And who was there to step up but Fletcher Loyer? Only 4 field goals, like you said, but just got to the line, put pressure on the rim. Like I talked about earlier, some of those unassisted buckets, man, he's one of the guys who can make those floaters. He's got such good touch around the rim. He puts up some floaters that you just don't think are going in. And then he's just got the ultimate shooter's touch. I mean, it's unbelievable how much touch that guy has around the rim. Of this is going to go off front iron, and it looks like it's going to go short. Nope, take a couple more bounces, roll in there. Took a confident 3 at one point. Just finding ways to impact the game. Played 35 minutes. Just a really complete game from him and Smith. I thought those two guys in the second half, I know we'll get to Braden, but just kind of lumping them in together as freshmen, man, those two guys in the second half were huge. Steadying the ship. Edie only had, I think, only 4 in the second half. So it was those guys, kind of on them, like, hey, this is another big spot, and we take them for granted a little bit. But man, those guys they delivered again. It's obviously to the point now where the expectation is that they're going to deliver, even on the road against a team Purdue hasn't beaten in 5 years, which is crazy to be saying that, but that is now the standard. So I'm fascinated to see if they can keep this going, or will they have the inevitable, where they both struggle and now we need somebody else but Edie, that kind of situation. I'm almost hoping we get that, because it's just probably going to come up in the tournament at some point, so I'd love to be prepared for that. But you're not going to get any complaints from me with these 17-point nights, as you say, Bragg. So if you keep scoring 17 every game, I think we'll all be pretty happy.
And Kraig, you're shaking your head because you doubt it'll happen. But Ron Reed, a guy came in my DMs on our Braggs in the stands.
Is he from Rensselaer?
He might be. Who isn't from Rensselaer these days? But he asked me a good question, and Aidan kind of alluded to it there. Do you think that they'll hit a freshman wall? I mean, we're taking this for granted, how great they've played. And I thought it was an interesting question just because they haven't been through a grind like this in a season. And none of us really, I don't think any of us are really feeling like that's going to happen. But I guess it is a fair question. You're going through a gauntlet of a Big Ten season. You're answering the bell every single time. They're close games. So, you could argue some of these could have went the other way, and we might feel differently just, as far as how confident we are in these guys. But is there any concern to you that they'll hit some kind of a freshman wall, or are these guys just different?
No. And let me expand. I'm not concerned about a freshman wall with these guys because they know how to affect the game in multiple ways. We've already seen times where Fletcher's not hitting from the outside and he gets to his mid-range. We've seen times where his mid-range and his outside shot isn't falling and he gets to the foul line. We've seen times where Braden can manipulate the entire game on a string passing. And we've seen other games where he steps back and knocks down some threes and maybe doesn't have near as many assists in that game. I just think those two guys can shift how they're impacting the game and how they're getting points so well and so intelligently. And we're 20 games into the season. All right. Like if you were going to hit a freshman wall, we were going to hit it at some point by now. I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't see it. If anything, and don't anybody kill me here, I feel like I've seen a few games here in the last couple of weeks where I thought Zach's looked tired towards the end of the first half. Not so much in getting up and down the floor, but just his shots look like not quite as fluid and like maybe he's flinging it at the rim a little bit more as we get to the end of the first half at times. And I'm more worried about his minutes taking a toll than I am on Fletcher and Braden.
Fair point, because he has put up crazy minutes, and we've lauded how amazing that is for a guy of his size to be able to take on those minutes, but they do start to add up, no doubt about it, as he goes on his National Player of the Year run. Joe, your thoughts on Fletcher Loyer before we finish it up with Braden Smith thoughts?
Yeah, no, Loyer was really good. I think I've been kind of meaning to say this all year, and I just always forget. Loyer playing at Homestead, I think, was just perfect for him. Coming into this role here, from what I saw and what I projected, I just thought he was going to be more of the Sasha role, elite shooter, elite movement, maybe eventually develops as a guy that can, take somebody off the dribble. And I think I just really discounted the fact that he just had to create in high school. He wasn't at some big prep school or anything. Not that there's anything wrong with that by any means. But he was the guy in high school getting double teamed and just had to create for himself always. And I think that's really shown, that's been shown to be really good for him at Purdue. He scored 17 points and he only made 1 3. I would never have expected that coming into the season from Loyer. Just really good, really good shooting. Never Sasha. That's not a detriment. That Sasha was elite at his role.
Yeah,
but
even if it's like 6 a.m. in Serbia, I will send him the link and I will have him come in here. And no, I'm kidding.
No, Sasha. I was at the Sasha.
And I talked to him about him coming on here before the end of the season. Obviously, with the time difference in Serbia to here, it'll be a little tricky. But we're definitely going to try to bring on Sasha to get his thoughts on this team. He'd be the first one to tell you how Fletcher Loyer and the talent he brings is just on a totally another level. And that's a credit to Fletcher Loyer. It's not a knock against Sasha. These freshmen are just different. I mean, when Ethan was on, he talked about the impact Eric Hunter had on him. And I saw somebody in the chat asking about, what if we had Eric Hunter, not Braden Smith? How much worse would Ethan Morton said the reason he plays the way he does on defense is because of Eric Hunter. So when we compliment how much better Braden Smith is than a guy like Eric Hunter, that's not a knock against Eric Hunter. It's a credit to Braden Smith. These freshmen are just different. And, Painter is in his bag coaching, and he's in his bag recruiting these guys.
Yeah. And then
no question.
The one thing, last thing with Loyer before, passing it on, he was so good, and Purdue in general, but he was so good just diving down. Whenever Purdue, second half Purdue was doubling Dickinson on the catch, they adjusted to that instead of doubling on the dribble. So they're doubling on the catch, and then Michigan does a good job, just like Purdue, sends that 4-man or whoever diving to the opposite block, and Loyer poked 2 or 3 free, it felt like. Just being rotating there on the right spot at the right time, just, turning what should be easy layups for Michigan into either a steal or just knocking the ball free. So I thought that was also really impressive from Loyer today.
Yeah, 100%. Alex with a pretty profound statement here in the chat saying maybe I'm too high too early, but I think Fletch will go down as one of the best Boilers ever. Top 5 in my opinion. He keeps this up. He's certainly on his way. He's certainly going to be one of the greatest 3-point shooters in Purdue history, but he's got a lot more to his game than just that. I know he talked to Rick Mount earlier this year, so that's somebody he needs to keep talking to, right?
Top 5 ever though. We're going what like
the historian here is giving a look.
Big Dog, Joe Barry Carroll, Rick Mount, John Wooden. Let's I don't know 5.
What if he wins them a championship?
If he goes on a tournament run and he's scoring 20, 15, 20 a game, dude,
they win it. If these young bucks win them a championship, they're going to have some stats. I'll build them statues out of brick. They ain't putting up bricks, but I got the bricks. I'll make the statues.
He wouldn't have to go on a Carson run for them to win a tourney. Carson had to do that for us to get to the Elite Eight because that offense was Carson and Klein sometimes. That was the offense. So,
all right. So let's move to Braden Smith. And Timothy's asking the hard-hitting questions in the chat. What is wrong with Braden's socks? One always slides down to his ankle. Aidan, your thought on Braden's socks? Forget the game. What about his socks?
I don't know. I remember talking to him one time, and he just told me he does a lot of things differently. He actually told me one time he wore different colored socks in high school, different colored shoes. So he is a little bit different. I think he wears a calf sleeve. Yeah, is what that is, or a shin sleeve or something. I don't think it's actually one super long soccer sock, and then the other one is just a little smaller. I think it's actually by design there, but. Yeah, I don't know. I can't really speak to his sock game. Although I will say he had a hell of a game. I thought his poise tonight was excellent. At a certain point, he figured out, I thought, that he could just drive right by Doug McDaniel. I don't even think he needed a ball screen at times tonight to do that. And he figured that out in the second half of, like, I can just turn this corner. And I think he's slowly starting to realize that there aren't many players in the country he can't turn the corner on, to be quite honest. He's very quick, as we see. And, the more he begins to realize for himself, hey, I can get to my own shot, get creative with it, stop on a dime, pull up and bank in that shot. That's the type of shot we've seen Fletch hit from the time he got here, but Braden not so much. So getting that self-creation ability. And then tonight, a couple passes, as usual, that were blown by his teammates. I mean, the guy really is probably leading the country in missed assists that easily could have happened. He had the one early that I thought was going to be a lob to Edie for a dunk, and I don't know if he threw it too high or Edie it went through Edie's hands, where Edie was dominating early, and then they got Dickinson to commit. He threw it, and I thought, oh, this is going to be a slam, and then something went awry there. Obviously, Ethan missing the one, but yeah, just another unbelievable game. Composed, got 2 fouls, didn't let it get to him. Quick in the open floor, gets to the rim. It's just unbelievable. I thought there were a few times he got to the rim, he probably could have gotten a foul call, honestly, driving downhill. So yeah, I love Braden's game. I just love watching that guy play. I mean, I think Fletcher's may go down as the better guy. I don't know, but I will always take Braden in.
They're going to take turns on who's impressing you more each night. I mean, that's literally where it's at, because they do some things a little different. And then Braden, I just think defensively and just being the pest that he is, rebounding too. There's a couple times where he grabbed rebounds that some guards that are his size. Because, like, again, I was sitting with my wife and she's like, they're so small, or they're so much bigger. She was talking about Michigan. I go, no, Braden and Fletch just make everyone look bigger. I mean, but they're tougher. These guys are tough as nails. What they lack in, like, stature as far as how they look on the TV screen, they play much tougher than any guy across from them. Go ahead, Kraig.
Fletcher was also nuts. I don't have a good poker face. Fletcher was also nuts defensively tonight. Like that dude was in passing lanes. I actually thought this might have been Fletcher's best defensive game of the entire year, because he was jumping passing lanes tonight and reading where Michigan was going to go with that ball.
It's true.
And if he can consistently do things like that defensively, that just ups who we are as a defensive team completely. Because, like, I mean, he's probably better defensively as a freshman than, like, Sasha coming in as a freshman, but he's also not, like, top level defensive player on the floor when we're looking at, like, Ethan, Morton, Braden Smith, Zach Edie out there too. So not that he's the weak link, but an area that he can probably certainly improve in going forward.
Yeah, but those that's a great point, because those rotations, freshmen don't make those a lot. I mean, to bait Hunter Dickinson like he did, flying down there, and it's not necessarily baiting. It is the correct read to go down there and be the low man. I talked about it earlier. Coaches will refer to it as the MIG. If you're low, you're the most important guy, the MIG, because you can see the whole floor. You can communicate with your teammates. And for him to do that tonight, I thought was a great step. I thought he really did well. I think Gentry BN here brings up that last Braden turnover. I was trying not to bring that up, but I get it. It was pretty rough. It was about as bad as you'll see. And so I do think Braden still tends to get a bit too casual. Maybe it was first fall. I don't know, JB, but yeah, that was pretty rough, whoever's fault it was.
Yeah. Joe, I see you got the chalkboard ready. Yeah. I didn't know if you wanted to give any final thoughts on Braden before you got to it, or you can just hit the chalkboard. Go right ahead.
They can go together a little bit. I was just going to say, I'm also very new to the board. I'm not a coach like Aidan. I'm not, I'm working my way around.
No, but that's why I want to get you reps.
What?
That's why I want to get you reps on the board.
Fair. So we're saying we're saying Michigan has the ball right now. We'll say Dickinson has it here. And so you have whoever's, Edie, whatever. Michigan's usually going to be something like this. They'll be like this. They'll have usually a guy here and then maybe, somebody like here, whatever. We'll say that's the 4. So this is R4. When the ball goes into him, this R4 is usually going to double. And so we're going to say that this is Fletcher right here. This is Fletcher Loyer. This big is always going to dive here. And so now Loyer's this low man. And so he's the one that has to come over and get this. That way, when the double's here, the automatic read is for Dickinson to look for this guy cutting because his man wants to go double. Loyer's the one that is going to have to come over and try to, get in that passing lanes. And that's what he did really, really well tonight, I thought. I think we all pretty much agree on that. But no, going back to Braden, we got to see aggressive Braden again. And that's something that is really important. I was kind of looking through the stats and has Braden had 2 bad games in a row this year? I can't, maybe once. I'm just saying that more to cover myself, to be honest, than anything. I don't think he's had 2 bad games in a row. I think we would say for the most part, Maryland was not a good game. I'm also erasing this.
They've only lost once, so I doubt it.
Yeah.
That's true.
And Aidan, I got to disagree. You made a comment that Fletch will probably go down as the better player. Potentially could.
Yeah.
My thing is we've had a hell of a lot of really good 2 guards. Carson Edwards, Etwan Moore, go back down the line. Name me our top 5 point guards ever.
Can't.
Yeah. I think Braden's name is going to be etched in history just because he's one of the true point guards, high quality pass first, shot creation for everybody else point guards that we've had in 20, 30 years.
And his numbers are going to be unreal. His assists and rebounds and point, just racking them all up. He is going to have one hell of a career. And unlike Fletch, I guess you could say there's a chance if Fletch becomes like a Luke Kennard where he's averaging 22 a game, maybe he could go off to the league a little early. No chance with Braden at his size. Fletch is a 5%, I would say. I don't think either of them are.
And Braden turned a few guys out today, or tonight, just his dribble technique and his weaving and his little snake when he's getting, he's got Edie and kind of manipulating that and then coming around for a wide open layup. At the end, he's going up for the layup. He switches hands like MJ with the left, and because he knows the block is coming on the right side. So he switches hands and lays it in so gracefully. That's not easy to do. Most guys are out of control and it's, throwing it up off the backboard, and these guys are just not like that. We had a question in the chat from JB, and I'll ask you this, Kraig, because you're the historian here. Could Smith and Loyer, we talk about, how high they rank individually, but could this combination go down as the winningest combo in program history?
Well, from a statistical standpoint, they're
on the right track.
they're off to the best 21 game start, right? Or 20 game, 21?
20, they're 20-1.
Yeah, 21 game start in Purdue history. So as of right now, yes, they have a very good shot. The big question here is just going to be, how good is everybody else when our 7'4" National Player of the Year leaves? We already see it a little bit now when TKR, Braden and TKR ran a really nice pick and roll with a nice bounce pass, but Braden can't just flip that thing up for TKR. With Zach, he can just toss that up in oblivion and nobody else is going to get it other than Zach. So we're going to have to see a little bit when Zach's gone, what does Berg bring in? And does he become that next dominant 7-foot center? Or is it TKR playing primarily in the post and just how everybody else is? But, I picked a 6 this year coming into the league. So, I'm not going to doubt Painter next year either. So,
yeah.
I didn't pick a 6th in the country. I picked a 6th in the league.
Another question for the historian, Kraig. Do they already have more sauce than the Johnson brothers?
I think so. I saw somebody the other day was talking about, I just like that Braden and Fletcher are so respectful out there on the court. And I was like, I've seen those guys talk to the crowd. I love that they bring some fire and bring some sauce out there. And Braden has a lot of flash to him and the way that he plays. And both of those guys will do a little bit of John with other players and a little bit with the crowd. Fletcher gave a little bit back to the Michigan State student section the other day. So I'm going, yes, they've got more sauce.
Okay, Joe, this is an interesting point that I think we kind of comb over because we win and we're not worried about it. But at the same time, this is true. Key players have been out for some of the opposition that we have played. Zed Key went out early. Malik Howell was out for Michigan State. He's back, so we'll see him on Sunday. And tonight, no Jet Howard for Michigan. Joe, Do you think that Purdue's kind of ran into a little bit of luck there when it comes to that?
I mean, yeah, obviously, like that is, yeah, that's luck. They've also played the easiest conference schedule so far, per Ken Palm. Getting Minnesota, Nebraska both twice already. It's going to toughen up a little bit from here on out. No unwinnable game by any means. But it's just one of those is like Purdue's the team that's getting us this year. It rotates. It's like it's true, but it's also like you just take it because it's cool.
Yeah,
you can only play especially once we get to March. I mean, not that this really affects March Madness per se. I guess seeding it does, but like even to win March Madness, like you have to be a very, very good team. You also have to get lucky. You just have to, you have to have good shooting nights. You have to get some injury luck. Just stuff like that just has to happen. Like that's just the Big Ten. That's just college basketball, sports, really.
Aidan, I want to ask you this question because it really irritated me at the end. We're talking about footwear, with Braden's, leg sleeve or whatever, but the shoe comes off at the end.
Yeah.
And they stop play to let him put his shoe back on and tie it. To me, that was it just didn't seem right. What's protocol there?
No clue, and I don't think the refs know either. It just seems to me that the Big Ten refs are doing their thing this year. Like I said to you guys before the game, I'm glad Courtney Green was at the other Michigan school tonight, or we might have sweated that one out a little bit more because he has just been. I mean, the stats are crazy. For anybody who hasn't seen, there's a guy on Twitter who has a great thread about it where Courtney Green, it's the past decade or something, where Purdue is above 50% against the spread with every ref except Courtney Green, where it's a dramatically different number where Purdue's against the spread, and they've also won significantly less games with Green calling it. So that has nothing to do with Shoegate. Just me wanting to rant a little bit about Courtney Green. So hopefully we don't see him Sunday because last time
Purdue's been on
an
this
MSU game.
I did get a ruling, Greg, from Isaiah when that happened. He's the official that I've said is willing to come on the show if we get some wonky calls that actually matter, unlike that one. But he said it was a little bit weird, but technically by the rule book, it is defensible because the shoe came off on the side of the court where play was happening at that moment. And if they deem the shoe to be a potential hazard for another player to step on or trip over and potentially get injured, they can stop the game.
And so was the shoe on or off the court?
I think it was on.
Yeah. It was like laying out there on the court. So I think that was the issue in terms of it's still weird. We usually don't see it, but Isaiah said technically by letter of the law, the official can stop play because of that shoe being there.
All right. So to your point about Courtney Green, Aidan, because Purdue Twitter's been all over this for a couple years now. It says here from one guy, I'm not even going to try to read his name, but he says Purdue is 1-15-1 against the spread with Courtney Green officiating over the last 3 calendar years. They are 45-33-5 against the spread with all other refs. So
wow, some money to be made out there, guys.
Yeah,
just bet against Purdue. Bet against the spread if Courtney Green's officiating.
Yeah, pretty wild. So I think that about does it for tonight. I mean, we're about to hit the hour and a half mark.
It's past Craig's bedtime.
You guys are on the East Coast. I'm not. So, I'm still at before midnight. You guys are approaching 1:00 in the morning. So you guys probably have school tomorrow. I have no work tomorrow because bricklayers don't work in the snow because we're like that. So, this JB brings a good point as far as, Hall was out, which helped, but at the same time, it allowed Walker to be completely on fire, which Kraig has pointed out before. So, there's aspects to it, as far as how it's an advantage one way or another. So we'll just have to wait and see. Chris Diaz says in the chat, Kraig, his point guard, I believe this is his point guard ranking so far. Carson Edwards 1, Chris Kramer 2, Lewis Jackson 3, Braden Smith 4. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, See, this is weird because like Carson Edwards won like a national award for point guard of the year or something. Like he got some point guard award when he was playing, but like he played a 2 in our system. But a lot of those awards like base it off of what percentage of the time the ball is in your hands, rather than like how you're actually listed. So that's weird to me because like to me, Carson Edwards is still a shooting guard, not a point guard. The interesting thing is I love Chris Kramer. Chris Kramer is awesome. Statistically, Lou Jack blows him away. If you go back and look at the stats, like it's not close. Like Lou Jack blows Kramer away statistically. So in the Painter era, I would probably go Lou Jack right now just because of body of work, Kramer, and then Smith right now. But if I'm going to future it out a little bit.
Okay.
Smith's
I'm just
third
saying.
after playing 20 games. That's crazy. Smith's third in the Painter era after playing 20 games.
Not too shabby. With more talent coming, like we said, with Jack Benner and Catchings and Miles Colvin. It's going to be really interesting. So that wraps things up for tonight. I think we've all kind of kicked it around the horn enough. It's approaching 1 a.m. So, we appreciate it. There's still, 90 people in the live chat on YouTube. So if you've made it this long watching the show, you obviously enjoy what we're doing. That is our official wrap it up picture from here on out with the Midwestern goodbye. But I am going to ask everyone once again to please hit that like button on your way out. If you've been watching this long and hanging out with us, you obviously like what we're doing. And once again, we're going to continue to do this. Probably have a post-game show ready for you when the Michigan State game wraps up. May just be these 3 guys while I'm driving home, or I might sit in. We'll see how things roll. Maybe I'll hang out with Kraig at Brokerage Brewing Company, because that's where he was hanging out for the last post-game show. So maybe I'll join him this time around. But we'll see, because there is NFL games on too that I'm interested in coming home and watching. So we shall see. But shout out to Brokerage Brewing Company as always. Want to shout out the Collector's Cave, another loyal sponsor to what we do here at the show. Visit www.thecollectorscave.com for your sports memorabilia needs. And then, of course, my guys over at Fanbags Cornhole, number 1 official supplier on the national circuit for cornhole boards and bags, which you see on ESPN and everything else. They're sponsored by some of the best throwers in the country. Visit www.fanbagscornhole.com. So those are those guys. We appreciate all their support. Once again, to all you guys watching, still hanging out this late in the night. Appreciate you tuning in. We'll probably have another post-game show fired up for you Sunday afternoon for the Michigan State game at Mackey Arena. The first time the Paint Crew will be introduced to the number 1 team in the country as Purdue sits atop the rankings. It's getting comfy up there. But again, we appreciate everybody tuning in, and we'll do final thoughts another night because it's 1 a.m. These guys got to get to bed. Craig's got a job. I just sit at home and hang out, watch my kid. These
brick by brick,
brick by brick in the summertime. Maybe I'll do some Bears coverage, or I'll just talk shit on Twitter all day. But yeah, you're 100% welcome, JB. Everybody have a great night. Boilers win. So we'll see what they can do on Sunday. So boiler up. Have a good night, ladies and gentlemen.